Hi guys, welcome back to another live stream. Today, guys, we'll be doing my Beatles in Canada book collection, of course. Of course, we have a lot of books about the Beatles. At the end, when I show my Beatles book, we will do a bonus books, of course. Of course, we have one, two, three, four, five. There's seven of them in total. They're gonna be the last two, gonna be bonuses. Of course, let's get started. First up, we have is the 1997 book called The Beatles, The Invasion of Canada, A Harsh Wind Boom by Brian, Brian Kendall from 1997. This book, of course, is a coffee table book about the Beatles arriving in America not America, to Canada in 1964, of course. It, of course, is a great coffee table book. This book is, of course, out of print now. You can buy it at used bookstores, or you know why. Here's of course a nice picture of the boys, and there's a photo of them Monday, the Beatles, of course, and has a nice photo of them. It says the Beatles. Of course, this is a nice book cover, very nice book cover. They should put this in the stack across the reference, or you know why? If they do have it. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Of course, inside you get an ad to see A Hard Day's Night at the theater. In all these theaters, you experience the film to see. I will order them to you. I would just up the first page that tomorrow, starring in the first full-length, hilarious action-packed film, The Beatles, A Hard Day's Night. Free list expanded. Oh, six brand new songs, A Hard Day's Night. If I fell and I love her, I shouldn't have known better. I'm happy just to dance with you. Tell me why. Plus your Beatles favorites. She loves you. All my loving. I want to be your man. I want to be your man. That's a mistake. Don't bother me and can't find me love. Also star Wilford Bramble. Produced by Walter Sampson. Screenplay by Alan Owen. Directed by Richard Lester. Released through United Artists. The theaters were Downtown, Midtown, Odeon, Scarborough, Kingsway, Glendale, Sensory, Prince of the Wales, State 400 Drive-In, and Northern East Drive-In. The Glendale, Kingsway, Odeon, Scarborough sold out tonight for the special preview of Hard Day's Night. The Scarborough was on Scarborough on Kingston Road. On the next page is a ticket, and the fans waiting for to see the movie. There's a ticket to see the film for the, not the matinee. This is the evening, 8:30 p.m. special preview, August 11th at 8:30 p.m. This ticket is only good to Kingsway Theater, $1. Yeah, it was only a $1 ticket. That's crazy. There's the first book of Beatles in Canada. Great book, 10 out of 10. This is the library copy of A Harsh Wind Boom, of course. This came out the same year, 97. But this is another coffee table, the same book, of course, the same story. And by the way, the downtown, I drove by Dundas Square yesterday. The downtown was a theater. The first store at the downtown was 9:30 a.m. If it's the 9:30 a.m. show, what time the doors open? Probably like 9 o'clock in the morning. And of course, it was young at Dundas. That's weird. The downtown closed it in 1972 and never played as 1982 Fiance Weebly's. That's the ticket same too. There's the library cover of A Harsh Wind Boom, The Beatles, The Invasion of Canada from 1997. This is the library cover of Piers Hemmingsen's book, The Beatles in Canada, The Origins of Beatlemania from 2015. This book came out. But this book is, of course, a coffee table book as well. It contains a lot of story about them. It has a page on Hard Day's Night in here, with some ticket stubs. There's a part of it when it premiered in Vancouver. Oh my god, my phone. Of course, it was. This is for Vancouver. The film premiere in Vancouver. The film was previewed at 9:30 a.m. That's the same time as the downtown. The first show was at 9:30 a.m. You could on the 6th of August, on Thursday, August 6th, they did 10 a.m. shows. That's crazy. Yeah, look at that. I would say special preview Amid One, Thursday, August 6th at 10 a.m. Sponsored by this beverage company. Of course, yeah, it was sponsored by. And there is the library cover of the Beatles in Canada, the origins of Beatleman from Pierce Hamilton, forward by Paul White and Mark Lewison. A great Beatles author. He made Mark Lewison wrote all two all those years. When Volume 2 coming out? That's going to take a year. Here's volume. There's the first. There's the big the Beatles in Canada, the origin of Beatlemania. Next up, it's the library copy again of A Heart's When Boom. The Beatles. The other comics I showed the that one was from one. This is from the Nova District Library, and this book is out at the Toronto Reference Library too. Same book. Oh no. Oh, look at this. It says the new into August 1998. Then this book was probably acquired to the Toronto Public Library in 1997. That's probably why the book came out in 1997. This was acquired probably 1998 or maybe at the end of 97. There's that one. Last week we have Us and Them, Canada, Canadians, and the Beatles from 2021. This is from the Wicksview Library, of course, signed by the author. This is of course a story about the Beatles. It comes with a story about Canada and Canadians and the Beatles too. And there's an I followed them from the Maple Leaf Garden Show on September 7th, 1964. This is a great book. This is a 9 out of 10 book. And okay, now guys, as bonus books, yesterday was my birthday, and I got this new Beatles book. You know what it is? I got drum roll, please. The Beatles in Canada, The Evolution, 1964 to 1970. I gave the blue book. This is Pierce Hamilton's Volume 2 of the Beatles in Canada story. Of course, this is Volume 2. I remember seeing it at the bookstore. It was $150, not more than mine. And of course, this is a book about part 2. Like part 1 was the origins of Beatlemania. For this is hardcover. I'm guessing they're gonna put this out again. They're gonna put this out again in paperback. They do have the Toronto Public Library. They have it on order. I'll tell banks they have that when they get it. I'll tell you in a minute. For it has like mainly under stuff. This book is very well made. Here's Hamilton did a great job, and it also came with a CD. That CD is interesting. I'll get it. Here it is. Here's the audio CD of the Beatles in Canada, the evolution of 1964 to 1970. This of course is a audio book. No, it's an audio CD. You can play your CD player. You can listen to Pierce Hamilton talk about a little bit of Volume 2. I got a bookmark. I'll show the bookmark. Here is of course the bookmark with Pierce Hamilton and Mark Lewison. And there was a poster. I'll get that too. You guys could see the book for a little. You guys could see the cover for a little bit. Okay. I got the poster. There was the book. Here is, of course. Here's the poster. Where it comes this nice poster. It talks about the story of Beatlemania in a whole poster. It says on the 17th of August, 65, they did 2 shows at 4 o'clock and 8:30. 2 shows that day, and they didn't come on wide on 8/4. They had opening acts before that. Of course, this is the audio. See, I'll show the disc. Here's the disc of the audio CD. Of course, this is part 2 of his story, Beatles in Canada. Tickets were only $4, not more. Of course, there's the audio seed of Beatles in Canada. Of course, this CD sounds awesome. By the way, I listened to it. It sounds awesome. Okay, we're almost done. Of course. Okay, there is Volume 2 of Beatles in Canada. It's huge. This is how many pages are in total of this? 638 pages. Oh my god. 638 pages for a hardcover. The first version, the first book of Beatles in Canada was like, well, like 400 pages. This is longer, this is a longer story. More. This ends in 1970, and he probably not do volume 3. If he did, I would love to read that one. Of course, last week, this is not my library copy. This is my own copy of of the Beatles in Canada, the origin of the Beatlemania. This is the same. This is a friend. I got this for free. My dad gave it to me, of course, and I got Volume 1, the Beatles in Canada, the origins of Beatlemania. This is the first volume, of course, of the Beatles in Canada. It's a very interesting story. Like, the Beatles were a great thing for Toronto, of course. Or I gotta tell you, and there's a page in Toronto, and I tell you who were the actors. Oh, here, Toronto. The tickets were wasn't issued for a 2:30 show. They were supposed to do 2:30. The afternoon tickets, the afternoon show time was changed to 4 p.m. They did 2 shows. Okay, here are the shows: 4 p.m. and 8:30. The acts were the Bill Black combo. Well, Bill Black, who was ill, he was sick. The Siders, Clarence Frogman Henry, Jackie Chan, Jackie D. Chan, and the Beatles. The Beatles started to play at 5:30 p.m. The set list they did was Twist and Shout, You Can't Do That, All My Loving, She Loves You, Boys, Wolver Beethoven, The Things We Said Today, A Hard Day's Night, If I Fell, Long Time Selling, and Can't Buy Me Love in the show. Of course, that's how the book ends. Like, there's more, of course. And that's when his first volume of Beatles in Canada, the origin of the Beatlemania. Get this book, of course. It's out of print now. Get volume 2 if you have volume 2. If you don't have volume 2 yet, you should get volume 1. It's, of course, the best one in the series. Now, I'm happy. I got volume 1 and volume 2 to the collection. Will you guys do a book review on my Yankee Figure? Yes, I will do a book review someday. Coming soon. Probably the end of the year. This is a long book. This book review will coming out December 2026. At the end of the year, I'll be reviewing the Beatles in Canada, the evolution from 1964 to 1970. That when will the review come out? And as a bonus, I will do a review of Volume 1 too. Thank you guys so much for watching today's live stream. Of course, have a good day. Of course, before the stream, if you, okay, I thought I told you, do they have to Toronto Public Library has Beatles in Canada? Let's look. Let's look right now. The Volume 2 took a long time to come out, of course. Okay, here we go. Here, Beatles in Canada, free on hold. Here we go. Here are all the branches are getting Beatles in Canada. Don Mills, Northview Central, Westview, and Toronto Wetlands. Nice. Of course. Thank you guys so much for watching today's live stream. Of course, have a good day and peace out.